Hello, my name's Peter Barnett. I work for Telstra. I've, in recent times, been doing considerable amount of work with the Municipal Association of Victoria around what we've chosen to call an enablement platform. How did that come about? Well, in one of two ways. One is my history is as a public servant, pretty much in Tasmanian state government for over 2.5 decades. And that culminated in exactly the same situation that I think pretty much local government across Australia finds itself in now. And that is the need to do things differently, the need to undertake some form of digital transformation. That digital transformation isn't a very simple exercise. However, the return on investment for such an investment as that is considerable. In government, doing any sort of transformation is always fraught with a high level of risk, but high risk, high reward, as we all know. Why Telstra? I'm currently working there, but the reason why Telstra is that the MAV pursued, through a competitive tender process, some telecommunications and associated services. One of those was the capacity to gain a strategic partner, and at the time calling it a strategic cloud partner, because cloud being the buzzword of today, as we all know. Telstra responded and Telstra was successful. Why do I think that was the case? Primarily because, firstly, we've done this before. We've done this once, as I said before, in the Tasmanian state government, and been incredibly successful over the last 15 to 17 years in providing them a platform from which to change and from which to invoke digitisation across their organisations. Two, we understand the notion of co-creation and collaboration, and that is, are you buying something that Telstra sells? No, you're not. Is this something that Telstra has as a product? No, it isn't. It's something that we will actually co-create together to build, something that's going to be a custom build, custom fit for the Municipal Association of Victoria and its constituent councils. The catalyst for that is to change local government outcomes. And if we don't, at the end of the day, manage to invoke a change in local government outcomes across Victoria, we won't have succeeded. This is an enablement platform. This is not something that is a Telstra-only solution, or it's not something that means you have to buy every single product from Telstra. Moreover, it's a piece of the puzzle that brings together the disparate parts of technology as well as the 80 constituent councils of Victoria, and allows them much simplified access, much more effective and efficient access to the services that they need in an ICT context. From that, the MAV have chosen to call that an enablement platform, because as a consequence, it actually enables then for them to drive opportunity on top of that. So technologies can then use that platform to provide something that's more effective, more efficient way of delivering services to local government constituents in Victoria. It needs to be a little bit different. Unlike most platforms, which one would think would be a rather large computer somewhere, this thing is a connectivity mechanism. This thing needs to be flexible. So it needs to be able to cater for the needs of 80 different constituent councils. It needs to be highly secure. This is local government. Any piece of business that has the word government in it comes with its security and integrity requirements that are a feature of doing business in that sector. It needs to be scalable. Something that we're going to attempt here can't start with all 80 councils in one go, one big bang solution. We need to start with a sample of that, prove it, demonstrate it, and grow it. So the ultimate solution needs to be built from something that starts quite small. It needs to be future-proof. If we're going to do this thing, it needs to be something that we're not back here talking about again in 5 years' time. This thing needs to be able to stand the test of time. The platform that we're talking about, I can tell in a Tasmanian government context, after 15 years of operation, was investigated by an external consultant and still demonstrated to be world's best practice. So we think there is the potential for that future-proof notion to exist here. It needs to be able to be financially sustainable. Local government isn't made of money, no government really is. Therefore, this thing needs to be very much financially sustainable. We can't be paying squillions of dollars to provide a solution that takes us on a road to providing more efficient and effective solutions. This has got to be part of the efficient and effective notion itself. there needs to be an appropriate commercial model that we're going to have to develop this thing around. The whole concept of a collaborative platform is that it runs a single platform that is governed or overseen by a central organisational peak body, which is made up of constituent representatives. How do we break that down into a commercial model? So how do we pay for this platform? Well, that's going to be part of the challenge here. There is no prescribed way as to how we do that in a way that suits the MAV and its councils, so we'll need to work through that with them. The other challenge is a standard one for government, and that is it needs to be competitive and contestable at all levels. This is not about buying everything with a Telstra logo on it. This is about Telstra providing you with a platform that gives you a level of risk mitigation that allows you to introduce competition at all levels. As you're probably aware, if you've had any interaction with ICT at all, the more disparate, the more competition, the more different flavours you have, the greater the chance for something going wrong and the greater the chance for you not being able to get to the source of the problem. It's that level of risk mitigation that Telstra is bringing to the table here. But, having said that, the components that bring that thing together, like the telecommunications, like the cloud storage, like the application services provision, like the gateway provision to internet and to state governments and federal governments, are all competitive pieces of the puzzle. And competition needs to be made available at those layers. And Telstra needs to be cognisant that its role is one of risk mitigation. Whilst it might want to compete in the other places, there are no guarantees it's going to win the business there, and it must work collaboratively with the people that do. The other thing that this needs to be, and I think this is a concept that might be, again, a little alien in some levels of government in Australia even, is the notion that it needs to be a strictly controlled level of performance that includes things like rebates, penalties, and ramifications for not delivering, other than merely, I'm sorry, we gave it our best shot, we didn't quite make it. And that's the governance role of the central platform manager, if you like. And in this context, I suspect that would be the MAV, who would then have the ability and the power of 80 councils to go to any supplier in that matrix of the platform and its constituent services and say to them, you're not delivering, there are ramifications for that. You need to either pay penalties or, in fact, we may conclude our contract or terminate your services because of your lack of performance. As individual councils, that's a very difficult thing to do. However, if you have the power of all 79 or 80, and you have the power of the MAV behind you as a procurement authority, all of a sudden you can actually bring some pressure to bear on what are normally very global, very monolithic style organisations that typically have the situation of the tail wagging the dog. So this platform, what sorts of things should we expect from it? Well, clearly we've got to expect it's got to be high capacity. So this platform, if we like, is a transfer mechanism of data from one place to another, and it guarantees that data going from place A can go to place B, and when it does so, it does it securely, and it leaves and arrives with the expected outcomes in terms of the security and integrity of that data. So it leaves and arrives unchanged. So it needs to be able to do that from every one of the 79 or 80 councils in Victoria. It needs to do so and create this platform in a manner that each council can opt in when they're ready, so that we start with a small number, but then other councils aren't forced or mandated. They join the platform as and when they see that there's a need or a benefit to them to do so. Having said that, it must also maintain a level of separation that not only joins these 79 or 80 councils together, but where appropriate, keeps them well and truly apart. There is no interaction beyond connection to the platform between the service providers, in this case Telstra of the platform, or whether it's the connectivity provider, in the networks that are owned and managed today by the constituent councils. Those networks are a matter for each individual council, and it's only the point of connectivity external that this platform has a role in. As I say, it needs to be proof for the next 5 years, but I suspect that would probably be a very conservative term. We might well be looking at something more like 10. The platform needs to provide a single interface So the notion here is not multiple connections to anything. It's a single connection to everything. Every council will have a single connection to the platform. Through that single connection will come every ICT service that that council wishes to consume. Whether that service be a connection to the internet, a gateway to the Victorian state government, a connection to the federal government, whether it needs some cloud storage, whether it wants to use IP telephony. Regardless of the service, it all comes through a single point of connectivity between the platform and each constituent council. It can be as simple as connecting to information in the neighbouring council, but it all comes down through that single point. Applications, key applications, whether they be ones defined as whole of MAV, if you like maternal and child health, roads data and those sorts of things, all again delivered through that single point of connectivity. Whether they be external, things like Office 365 and other software as a service style platforms, again, all through that single point of connectivity. So the point is that each council doesn't need to maintain a whole raft of different connections to different services, to different gateways, to different vendors. It maintains one single connection. Equally, that works for the vendors, the gateway providers. One connection to the platform. So on behalf of all the councils, the governance group, based probably from MAV, would procure and contract each of the gateway providers, each of the software as a service providers, each of the cloud providers, and in doing so form a single connection to the platform. That single connection would be used by all councils for access to those services or gateways. In the first instance, what we'd like to do is actually trial this. We all understand the notion of try before you buy. And after 18 months of presentations, I think both myself and Telstra, as well as the MAV, are at the point where we'd like to actually demonstrate something. The plan is to undertake a series of proof of concept trials that last about 6 months. And across that proof of concept trial, be able to demonstrate the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the return on investment, the sustainability, and all those criteria that I mentioned previously about the characteristics of such a successful platform would have. In doing so, we're going to connect 6 councils across Victoria into a platform, and we're going to run a series of services to them. That means they can, for the period of that trial, use a single point of connectivity such as the one we're describing. We'll be providing to them their internet, their associated services such as content filtering, intrusion prevention, web antivirus, denial of service, etc., etc. And we'll be managing that role for them by way of demonstration. From the day they connect to this platform through their single point of connectivity, they are instantly connected to every other council that'll be on the proof of concept trial. We're also developing a raft of different sorts of solutions that we're going to try and test, trial, if you like, and demonstrate across the period of the POC. They are things like big data, using regional road data, to try and have a single point of storage for regional road data that allows councils across Victoria to access from a single point data not only pertaining to their local shire, but to neighbouring shires and others relevant to them. We also plan to trial an application, which we're about to select, to allow these councils to, through the same single point of connectivity, access not only that regional road data, not only the internet, but now an application, and see how that application performs through that point of connectivity and what the benefits of doing it in that manner are. From there, hopefully, we will be able to demonstrate the future benefit and potential of this platform. Should then Telstra and the MAV enter into a contract to provide this platform, the next step becomes introducing competition. Introducing competition at the connected layer. For the point of the trial, we're asking all participants to have an existing connection to Telstra to reduce complexity, if you like, as well as cost to us for the period of proof of concept. But going forward, we'd like to open that up to all the providers of network services who are currently on the MAV panel, so that any constituent council that chooses to join to the platform can go to any one of those telecommunication providers and gain access to the platform with the same terms and conditions and the same level of service and service guarantee. And I guess there's another point to be made about competition. This creates a standard of performance across all players who want to be part of this platform. If you are going to provide services to this platform, whether they be cloud, whether they be telecommunications, whether they be applications, whether they be software as a service, it doesn't really matter. As the MAV and the governance body of this platform pursues this environment, what it would do, I am sure, is set minimum standards for all those players as they wish to join. So not only are they seeking services on the basis of price, but they're seeking services on the basis of commercial behaviour and service management excellence. And they become key criteria that a body such as this, with the power of 80 collected together, has the ability to enforce. The next step I would suggest is to migrate out into the alternate services provided under the telecommunications contract, currently at MAV, but I suspect no doubt will be recast and renewed over the next 3 to 5 years. Things like the provision of cloud services, so that there might be 5 or 6 different cloud providers from which any constituent council can choose. Software as a service for common council services, things like finance, payroll, asset management, the things that we come to know are common across local government, not only in Victoria but across the rest of Australia. So single contracts between those service providers and the MAV governance body, with driving the best price, best performance, best management and minimum standards for all those sorts of services. And then again introducing the potential to have the platform itself house services that MAV sees most appropriate. And I've mentioned before things like maternal and child health, maybe a whole of MAV email, etc., etc. There is the potential for different manners for this governance body to exploit the platform once it's fully developed. Introduction of competitive internet, more than one internet service provider, again is part of the roadmap. And the final tick off, I guess, would be those services that are, as at today, provided 79 times in some cases, and reducing those down to a single gateway. Remote access services, mechanisms by which staff, constituents, approved contractors can access different services inside individual councils, would all be managed in a single mechanism. Access to the federal government, a single connection from the platform to the federal government instead of independent ones. A single connection to Victorian state government, a single connection to the internet or agreed multiples, and single connections to secure banking gateways. There's 4 major banks in Australia, 79 councils. The math there isn't very nice. It would be good to reduce those to four single connections to allow commerce and business to take place. That then creates an opportunity on which the MAV as an entity with its constituent councils can then leverage. It can then take advantage of the platform opportunities that are created by suggesting that from day one, Council A can either acquire a service, and let's say for the case of argument, payroll. It can own its own payroll and run it itself. From day one connecting to the platform, it can use the one at the council next door because it's connected to it. And from a simple change, we can provide access to it. It could then choose to buy one from a software as a service provider and gain access to it through the same connection, through the same gateway, with a simple network change. MAV could develop a whole of MAV payroll solution, which could be housed either inside the platform or external and accessed by the same council using the same gateway and the same connection. Equally, local government in Victoria might choose that payroll isn't something it wants to pursue and isn't core business. But the Victorian state government has an excellent version. Let's use theirs. For that constituent council that started off with its own, then used the neighbouring councils, then bought software as a service, then bought a cloud solution, then used the whole of MAV solution, it is one rule change in a firewall to allow them to use the Victorian state government solution. That hopefully then demonstrates to you the power of the sorts of things that you can deliver using this platform. It'll create a digital transformation opportunity for the MAV. and its constituent councils. It won't be the solution, it'll be the platform, the Meccano set, that enables the solution and local government in Victoria to drive its own priorities, its own opportunities, in an environment where at all times the ICT infrastructure sitting underneath it, or the platform, says yes. No longer will you need to ask a question is, can I do this in an ICT context? From the point of this platform forward, the answer will always be yes.